It's time for the lowdown. Down. Yesterday morning started with Epic Games adding alternative mobile pay methods to counter Apple and Google's, quote, exorbitant mobile fees. By the afternoon, Apple and Google pulled Fortnite from their app stores, which seemed all according to plan as Epic almost immediately filed lawsuits against the two tech companies. Both tech giants issued responses later in the day.
In a statement, Google said the open Android ecosystem lets developers distribute apps through multiple app stores. For game developers who choose to use the Play Store, we have consistent policies that are fair to developers and keep the store safe for users. While Fortnite remains available on Android, we can no longer make it available on Play because it violates our policies. However, we welcome the opportunity to continue our discussions with Epic and bring Fortnite back to Google Play.
Apple responded as well, stating Epic agreed to the App Store terms and guidelines freely, and we're glad they've built such a successful business on the App Store. The fact that their business interests now lead them to push for a special arrangement does not change the fact that these guidelines create a level playing field for all developers and make the store safe for all users. After the Apple App Store ban, Epic released this video directly mocking Apple's famous 1984 commercial. Take a look.
Anniversary of the platform unification directives. For years they have given us their songs, their labor, their dreams. In exchange, we have taken our tribute, our profits, our control. This power is ours and ours alone. We shall prevail.
The finale of the video is particularly targeted, saying Epic Games has defied the Apple monopoly. In retaliation, Apple is blocking Fortnite from 1 billion devices. Join the fight to stop 2020 from becoming 1984, and ended the video with the hashtag #FreeFortnite. What the heck? Team, what are your initial reactions here?
Okay, number one is that they had a hashtag queued up, they had a video queued up, and even in their legal document that they filed, they had terminology that could be spun into catchy little slogans.
I mean, I'd seen that video before, obviously, but watching it again, I'm staggered by how meticulously planned it was. I mean, basically what I'm seeing here is Fortnite issuing, or Epic Games specifically, a call to action, shall we say, for their massive, very engaged fan base.
Yeah, the gauntlet has been thrown. That video was shown across all games in Fortnite. You could jump in and watch it happen. I mean, this is just such a clearly planned out move to be like, hey, Apple, here's the middle finger. We don't think what you're doing is right. And not only that, they're doing it for the sake of all games, not just Fortnite here, which is fascinating.
And I mean, Epic Games and Fortnite has such an involved user base, and it's a massive number of people. I think there's 350 million monthly active users on Fortnite at a given time. So running this video is getting a lot of eyeballs on it. So they hit the ground running really fast to position the public against Apple, which I think really is their biggest, that's their biggest strength right now.
Yeah.
Well, and Fortnite has so clearly positioned themselves here as sort of like the champions of the people. You know what? That is the message that they're trying to send, particularly with that ad, with the whole thing of oh, it's the evil Apple overlord who is mind controlling everybody and has to do everything. Hashtag free Fortnite. You know what I mean? It's wild.
To me, there's this weird cognitive dissonance and this gap between people who just don't care and will continue to buy Apple devices, and then the small sliver of people who can be like, Apple is evil, and but to me, it's just these are two giant corporations just hammering it away at each other. One much smaller, by the way, Epic, than Apple itself. So the fact that they're taking such a public stand and doing so in such a way that incites everyone to start talking about it means that they're, one, not afraid, and two, they think, and according to Sweeney, this is the absolute must-do thing.
And it can't be understated just how much smaller Epic Games is than Apple.
It's so much smaller than Apple.
Yeah, and they're huge. Don't get me wrong, they're a massive company, but Apple is the #1 most profitable company in the world. I think they're one of only 2 or 3 trillion-dollar companies.
It'll be super interesting to me to see as this story develops, how successful Epic Games is able to be relying on, again, the really engaged user base that they have, because Apple is not trying to come back at people being like, hey, Epic, here's our millions of engaged Apple fans who are gonna fight you and think you're doing a bad thing. It's very clearly, again, Epic setting itself up as we are the champions of the people. Here is our user base. We all need to rise up together and we can take on Apple.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, even the language they used was like that in the ad.
If you read the lawsuit, it starts off with them just taking a crap on Apple and Google's
I mean,
legacy.
don't they
It's
even-
insane
don't
what
they
they're saying.
say something like Apple, I mean, not maybe in quite this much of a layman's terms, but they basically say Apple is evil.
Yeah, well, they're like,
Well, they
start-
do say Google is
Yeah,
evil in their site.
yeah. And like this original ad back in the day was Apple fighting against what Fortnite is now fighting against. They're saying
Yes.
Apple has become the menace on the screen that they originally were saying was the bad guy.
Either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah,
Did you
that's
just
a
come
very
up with
good
that?
point.
That's really,
I
really
did not.
poignant.
That is definitely
That's from,
a
like, Lord of the
controversial
Rings,
one,
right?
would say something
No,
like
it's
that.
from Star Wars.
That's it.
Totally.
That's it. That's
From
it.
my
Howard the
brain.
Duck.
Kylo Ren,
Brain.
2020. There's a lot of chat talking about this right now. It's great to see everyone so engaged. Warm Fuzzy, $1 billion companies talking crap to each other is both hilarious and terrifying. I agree with that.
Accurate.
And like, I think the ad is pretty wild. And then someone said this sounds like a giant publicity stunt, but I don't think Epic Games is looking to get money out of this.
They're specifically not looking to get money out of this because in their filing, they specifically said they're not looking for any monetary compensation. What they're looking for is for Apple to change its policies.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Oh, actually, we have the quote. Sorry. Epic is not seeking monetary compensation from this court for the injuries it has suffered, nor is Epic seeking favorable treatment for itself, a single company.
Instead, Epic is seeking injunctive relief to allow fair competition in these two key markets that directly affect hundreds of millions and tens of thousands, if not more, third-party app developers. Standing up for the small guy, Epic.
Yeah. Joining us now to talk over the pair of lawsuits is Bryce Blum, founding partner of ESG Law and president of the Esports Bar Association. Bryce, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First off, how serious is this lawsuit, and does it have any merit on a legal level?
I mean, it's definitely serious, right? I'm not an antitrust law expert, so I'm not in a great position to tell you to, read my crystal ball and forecast the likelihood of them winning. But there are a few things that let us know how serious this is, and the biggest one is they're putting their money where their mouths are, right? You're looking at the law firm they hired, Cravath, which is one of the biggest and baddest law firms you can go and find. And it's exactly who you hire if two things are present. One, you don't care how much money you spend because they're ridiculously expensive. And two, you want to show someone how serious you are about something. So when you're looking at that, plus the fact that they knew they were going to get pulled off of the app stores, they knew that they were going to cost themselves millions of dollars by not being available largely to Google, Android, and to iPhone users. That's not something you do straight up as a publicity stunt. Like if you were just going for the PR, there were other ways of tackling this problem without putting so much money on the line.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, they will be taking a significant monetary hit here. I mean, do you think, you've seen a lot of lawsuits in your time. Have you ever seen one that's been paired up with a PR video that's been paired up with such flowery text that is just pooping on the legacy of these companies before? Is that making it more effective or less effective in the court of law?
I've never seen anything like this. I think it's entirely possible there's never been anything quite like this. I mean, there are some lawsuits that understand, given the stakes and the dispute, that it's going to be, there's going to be public consumption. So you'll see a complaint written a little bit more in plain English. This one is almost written like it looks like it was jointly written by Cravath and the PR team of Epic or whoever they hired, right?
Yeah.
And then when you layer on top of it the video assets they created, then you put it in the game itself, they're really weaponizing their extremely engaged fan base and saying, we're going to make you fight a war on two fronts, right? You're going to fight us in court and you're going to fight us in the court of public opinion simultaneously.
I mean, just so everyone knows, the opening paragraph of the lawsuit against Google reads, in 1998, Google was founded as an exciting young company with a unique motto, don't be evil. 22 years later, Google has relegated its model to nearly an afterthought and is using its size to do evil upon competitors, innovators, customers, and users in a slew of markets that has grown to monopolize. I mean, asking you again, you just said weaponize their user base. Is this something that makes them look better in the court of law, or is this something that where it's like, why are you, let's treat this as just a legal matter instead of like, hey, now you're attacking them on multiple points? Like, how is this going to be seen in terms of like what a lawyer or anyone else is going to look at?
The only person who matters is the judge, right? It depends on what judge you get, and you could easily wind up with an old world judge who looks at this and says, I don't like this. I just want to care about the law. I don't want this to be turned into a circus, or you could get a judge who kind of gets it. This is the world we live in, and part of these things, it's not just about what's going on in court, it's also the public perception around those things. They have a lot of very smart lawyers who were in the room thinking through the strategy and the language and understood the risk and reward. I'm going to defer to the fact that people smarter than me made the decision, and I think that they're saying, on balance, we think this is a good call, right? This is a good path for us to go down.
Yeah. Now, Bryce, a couple of weeks ago, Apple CEO Tim Cook spoke in front of Congress during a hearing on tech monopolies. Take a listen for anyone who has not heard this.
For the vast majority of apps, developers keep 100% of the money they make. The only apps that are subject to a commission are those where the developer acquires a customer on an Apple device and where the features or services would be experienced and consumed on an Apple device. In the App Store's more than 10-year history, we have never raised the commission or added a single fee. In fact, we've reduced it for subscriptions and exempted additional categories of apps. If Apple is a gatekeeper, what we've done is open the gate wider. We want to get every app we can on the store, not keep them off.
Bryce, can you speak a little bit as to how these statements relate to the Apple lawsuit?
Yeah, it's all part and parcel of the same thing, right? When you look at taking the four CEOs of these giant tech companies and putting them in front of Congress, the functional purpose of that was to hold their feet to the fire and say, are you monopolies? Is this actually good for consumers? Anyone who followed those proceedings knows there wasn't a lot of actual holding of the feet to the fire. And so Epic is saying, screw it, we'll do it, right? Like these, all the things we're pointing out in this lawsuit should have been lines of questioning in the hearings, and they weren't. And so we're going to point it out. And you've got Tim Cook's basically, he's saying we're not a gatekeeper. But really what he's saying is, okay, we have a walled garden, but our walled garden is reasonable and awesome. So like you're getting what you want out of this, right? And Epic is pointing out, one, you very much are a gatekeeper, right? If someone wants to be on an iOS device, if we want access to your more than 1 billion users, then we need to play by the exact rules that you give us. And two, it's not actually that awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like you are charging an outrageous rate, both for purchase of apps and for the purchase of goods within the apps, right? For any in-app purchase, you compare the 30% Apple charges to the roughly 3% that a standard payment processor like PayPal would charge, and it seems pretty ridiculous.
Totally. Now, Bryce, we touched on this a little bit earlier when we were chatting with you, but people in chat are asking still, is there any chance at all that this is just a PR stunt?
I think it's pretty low that this is just a PR stunt. I mean, it's possible that they're saying we can use a lawsuit to bring someone to the table and negotiate in a standard context, but in this context, they're not asking for some specific concession for Epic Games or some monetary settlement. They're basically saying the entire ecosystem that you built is unlawful and broken, and we're prepared to go to war over that. So it's hard for me to envision exactly how you could justify the PR benefits of this relative to the cost that they're going to spend, and in conjunction with the notion of settling this lawsuit doesn't really make a lot of sense for Epic based on what they're asking for.
If these lawsuits are successful, what are some of the implications that we'll have on the world of tech at large? Because we've already seen some tech executives tweeting support for Epic. In the past, we've had other people speak out about Apple's cut that they're taking on their store. I mean, what does this mean for the future if Epic's successful here?
I mean, if Epic's successful, we're talking about a massive overhaul of the entire phone ecosystem, which is, rapidly becoming the most important thing in the lives of most humans around the world. I mean, you have the computing power in your hand every day that people would be spending a lot of money for on their desktop 5 years ago, and that technology is just going to become more and more important in your connected world. If Epic wins, then we're talking about probably an open marketplace on these systems, a lot more freedom for apps to figure out how they want to monetize, to pass through less of these costs to consumers, right? It's not just about, this isn't just a gaming thing. This is about every app that exists on any phone, any smartphone that people are using around the world. So the repercussions here could be massive.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bryce. Your insight is absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers out there also are learning a lot from this. Now, we did have a poll that asked, whose side are you on? And it looks like we have 67% in favor of Fortnite here, as would be expected. Power to the gamers.
It could be higher than that, honestly. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, I mean, I
shout
have an
out to
iPhone.
Darthonix, too, who said there needs to be a third option. Go kick rocks.
Go kick
Both of
rocks.
you.
All right.